This is gonna be a double episode again. First of all because we have only 3 episodes left till the wedding and the next episode after this too will be centered about the special wedding preparations. And second because we finally have a new target, Bizzie Preston. Her takedown takes place in these 2 episodes because she is a special target of Emily and Nolan. He and Bizzie have history. So this time it is personal for Nolan, not for Emily. Major spoiler alert, the more they talked about Emily leaving everyone behind, the more I was convinced that her plan would epically fail. Like in season 4 when she was planning to walk away with her dad. I appreciate that they show how hard it must be for her to face being separated again from the people she loves the most. Must have reopened old wounds even though she now has the time to prepare herself and say properly goodbye. About Emily's new target. I like that they limited the number of Emily's new targets since the first half of season 1. It makes sense giving them a wider background. And I like this one the most because we have a connection to Nolan. And the actress who portrays this PR lady really does a great job. You hate her right away. And I love those cuts to Daniel, Emily and Charlotte. They all seem very much nerved and intimidated by her. Daniel looks even a little bit frightened. And from the first moment you knew she was a danger for Emily. 'Cause digging up secrets and information is her job, so Emily just had to take her down to minimize the fallout. And I love that Emily and Victoria already hate her as much as they hate each other. Would have been funny if they joined in again to take her down together as they did with Ashley in the first episode. But the alternative they chose was even more compelling. Making her believe she had found the one dirty little secret Daniel would make leave Emily behind was brilliant. And Emily did not even had to lie or come up with a story. Her first husband being one of Takeda's students and being eager to help was just hilarious. What I especially enjoyed with Nolan's backstory that his coming out was involved. Since we heard in season 2 that he had not seen his father in years, I always thought it must have something to do with him being gay. I know cliché alarm, but most clichés have a true core. Nolan and his father are an older generation and I think many man and woman in his age share the same story. Some might even have a more traumatizing one if you think about these camps where they try to change gay into straight people. I was so happy when they passed a law to forbid those kind of so-called therapies in Germany. They do much harm to helpless children and adults. Anyway, Nolan's story serves its purpose to make you hate Bizzie even more in order to make the decision easy that she deserves the red Sharpie even though she is not part of the David Clarke conspiracy. I think besides Father Paul and the last targets who are no Graysons, namely Luke Gillian and Pascal Lamarchal, we have no other conspirators than the Graysons in this season. Another thing, the plan beating her with her own weapons information shows how smart Emily is when it comes to warfare tactics. And it was intriguing getting to know she was already married even though it was just fake to help one of her fellow students. Who would have known that Emily in the end was married 3 times? 1 more time than Conrad and twice more than Victoria, who only was married to a Grayson. About Jack bonding with Sara. I think this was natural. Not only because she works with him every day. They share a similar experience with Emily and Daniel, and Jack always has these kind of protective instincts around women. A little bit ancient and not that much empowering but sweet. Since Sara can use a little protection from herself. Another thing about Emily's new target. It was fun seeing her and Nolan finally working together again. Since Aiden came into the picture in the last season, her teamwork with Nolan was really diminished. In season 2, who was only involved when they tried to help Padma and taking out the Falcon to revenge her death. So now he has the chance to show off all his skills. About Jack and Margaux. I do not necessarily like their love story, but it was a smart idea showing us how hard it is for Jack to move on. It seems as if he waited forever for Amanda to come back. And now he is deceived twice. First because he lost Amanda a second time by Amanda dying. Knowing the truth now that Emily is his long-lost childhood love does not erase that loss nor makes it easier to cope with. He still loved Amanda and she will always be the mother of his child. And knowing that this innocent girl Amanda turned into this revenge robot with no mercy for her victims is not at all comforting. It must have been a huge disappointment realizing what became out of this soft, caring and lovable girl young Jack fell in love with. And his illusion about Emily Thorne also died with that truth. So Jack has nothing more to hold on to but resentment and anger. Maybe this is the real and deeper reason why he is so angry with Emily. Not that he holds her responsible for the death of Amanda, but for murdering his childhood memories. I like that we finally see him visit Amanda's grave. Must have been hard for him to come back. Unlike Emily, who seems to draw solace and power out of visiting her father's and later Amanda's grave, he seems to be more like me. Visiting a grave makes the loss more real and brings back too much memories and emotions to cope with. By the way, all those graves reveal the real age of our favorite characters. Because they exchanged all data, we see Emily's aka Amanda's real birthday June 11, 1984. So she is twins like me. Fitting zodiac sign for her identity issues since she changed her name. About Sara making Emily's and Daniel's wedding cake. I like that this is a slow-boiling threat and she begins as a naive friend. At first glance Sara seems very much intimidated of Emily and not at all interested in getting back together with Daniel. But I must admit both actors have great chemistry. You really see how she is developing a crush on him. Like some teenager girl with her favorite star. About Nolan's quote, I love that they take the time to pay tribute to season 1. They do that a lot this season. Another reason why this feels like home. First we had the original takedown pattern back in the first episode. Then we get to see those pictures from the engagement photoshooting. And now we hear Nolan talk about fireworks like Tyler did regarding Emily's and Daniel's engagement party. Now we can talk about fashion again. For the first time I love nearly all of the dresses. Victoria looks really elegant in this simple blue dress. And her new way of styling her hair really makes her look more classy. About Charlotte's evolved style I already talked. I like her changing from these girlish floral dresses to geometric patterns. She looks really grown up. And I even enjoyed the print dress of Bizzie with flowers and cherish. Nolan and Aiden look great as well. I love that they tried to find some shirts that look a little more distinctive. Aiden is wearing bold colors and Nolan gives his classic white, blue and red outfit some edge with that stripes on the collar of a white shirt. And Emily looks just gorgeous in her floral patterned dress. Fitting for her first official takedown this season to wear a new red dress. The form-fitting dress with these floral patterns, I think they are even roses, is one of my favorites from the whole show. Too bad we did not see that much of it. About Nolan's stunt with the Google glasses. I think they were trending in this year, or maybe Google made a product placement here. But it was a nice little twist from the usual routine. About Aiden, Emily, Victoria and Daniel. Still it is so sweet seeing Aiden using every little moment to flirt with Emily. It was risky since Victoria is just waiting to see Emily back with Aiden only to run straight to Daniel with that information. but it seems as if she does not need to cause Daniel is already after Sara and therefore not jealous anymore. This little chat with Sara still makes me mad. Not because he is obviously rekindling their romance. Emily would not care either if marrying Daniel was not crucial to her plan. I just hate that they are talking about good childhood memories they cherish and share while Emily is still coping with her loss. That was maybe not Daniel's fault but surely something his parents engineered. And he seemed now fairly unattached by it. Only because he has no ties to Grayson Global anymore? Does he think that now the firm went down and they lost all their money this was enough to repay the debt? About Emily and Aiden at the beach. Another great scene with the sunset. I like the atmosphere of these scenes. Those bright and warm colors really feel like a warm embrace. And I love to see how happy Aiden makes Emily in this season. With Aiden she seemed never that happy even when he proposed to her she seemed some kind of reluctant. About Margaux trying to dig up information over Conrad. I think this was a huge mistake of her and it alerted Conrad in the first place. He thought Margaux would be easy to manipulate but she seems to work like a true journalist even though her magazine is not at all made for investigative journalism. As for her relationship with Jack, I never bought this one. They got together so quick and even if opposites attract this could never stood a chance in long term. So we all knew that it was just a delay to let him have a partner while Emily was engaged with Daniel. And since the selection was limited, he could not possibly date Charlotte. They had to make Margaux pick him before Emily and Daniel were available again. About Nolan's takedown and drinking wine with Emily. I like that he is not as badass with this as Emily. It is maybe even better to have someone like her as standby in case he needs someone to navigate through new scandals. And she could be an asset with information, too. She could dig up dirt about new targets, so Bizzie could have been of good use when she was working solely for Nolan. Taking her down would also mean to hurt her husband, too, who was not involved in her business, so I think Nolan's decision to spare her the full red Sharpie treatment was right. And since Emily said it was his takedown he gets to decide. Right? I like the spin that he saves her marriage. Nolan has really a soft heart. Giving her a pass also gave her the chance to say sorry so the wound could heal. The difference between Emily's targets, the Graysons and Bizzie is painfully clear. I do not think that any of her targets from season 1 and 2 would ever have apologized for their ill deeds. They were all the type of powerful man who think it is better to screw people over before they can screw them. And for Victoria it was never the question of saying sorry to anyone cause she was always the victim. I love Nolan's reaction that makes it clear some things cannot be repaired by a simple apologize. His father is dead and the damage cannot be undone. This view and the cozy couch is really the perfect spot. I am so jealous of Nolan's new home. Emily made a great choice here. I love her quote here, it really sums up their evolved relationship. Cause at the beginning in season 1 she was fighting him and his attempts of stealing a place in her heart for him. But at the end he won her over and no one, not even Aiden and Jack, could imagine to separate the two. They both are the heart of the show, as I said multiple times. About the opening with Daniel and Sara. At first I thought he would betray Emily like she is secretly seeing Aiden at the beach. Would have been only fair. But I think before he gets to know that Emily was only toying with him, he really tries to find a noble way out. Not only because he might be afraid of how Emily would react but for Sara's sake. Cause it seems at least that he thinks he is truly in love with her. And wants a fresh start with his new girlfriend like 3 years ago with Emily. And here comes after Aiden and Jack Daniels' shower scene. They really gave every young man on the show the chance to show off his sexy body. But the reason why I like this scene is how creepy Emily appears in the mirror like a mad stalker who found her way into his bathroom. About Aiden moving in with Nolan. This was a hilariously funny idea. By the end of season 2, Aiden and Nolan really grew together as a team when they tried to help Padma. They were not successful at all, but it made their relationship stronger since Aiden could relate to Nolan's lost cause. He could not save his sister either from the initiative. And his never-ending list of rules was hilarious. Seems as if he never lived together with anyone else before. The only thing that made the scene uncomfortable was Jack's reaction to Aiden. The jealousy and animosity Aiden has towards Jack seems to be on his side even stronger. I think he is pretty much unfair in his judgment since he does not know Aiden and only sees the most bad side of him. About Daniel conveniently meeting Sara. This scene was really bad for me. I really hate how Daniel is chasing after his new flame without making sure to break up with Emily first. What is he thinking? Does he want to see where this leads before he is calling off the wedding? Or is he just too afraid? Because with Vul covering the wedding, this not only a question of his personal life, his job and a lot of money is hanging on this big wedding event. Not to mention that he would have to admit that Victoria was right. Last but not least, he does not want to hurt Emily cause he still thinks she wants to marry him because she is in love with him. By the way, I hate this jumpsuit of her. It seems as if they trying to shout out that she just not fits in this world Daniel lives in. About Emily's talk with Sara. That was a genius idea of Emily confronting her right away. I am sure she researched Sara's life to get the needed information. So she prepared herself to put on a show. Cause Sara said more than once that her mother raised her and her brother alone cause their father ditched their mother for another woman. So this trauma would be a major roadblock for her getting further engaged with Daniel if she knew Emily would be hurt in the process. And since Emily knows firsthand how Victoria reacts to Daniel's girlfriends, she is using their common enemy to fraternize with Sara. The last drop were literally her fake tears. She really gave all she had for this and was lucky enough that Sara is that naive to fall for her enactment. Even I was falling for her act. But when she said that Sara would have had Victoria's approval, I knew she was lying. Cause Emily knows best that no one is good enough for Victoria. And she already knew from Daniel himself that she did not approve Sara back then. About Conrad teaching Daniel his wisdoms over marriage. This scene was just full of hilarious quotes from Conrad. I just like this version of him and how he sees the world. He is just such a cartoon of Donald Trump. The more I think about it, I am sure that they modeled his character after him. By the time I watched Revenge the first time, I did not know Trump. Before he became president, no one in Europe knew this man. About Emily and Nolan online shopping. I like that he still cares for her safety and got the idea of a plan B. Normally it is Emily who comes up with this. But here it is Nolan's idea, who turns out to be the one thing that saved her and made Aiden found here before it was too late. About Jack confronting Aiden. This conversation felt not as odd as I feared it to be. The two did a great job in making it feel organic since Jack is really worried about Emily's safety. I cannot blame him cause he is only seeing Aiden's brutal side. Especially in the next scene when he is helping Charlotte to get her phone back by brutally beating the guy who stole it from her. By the way, a totally cliché story with her having pictures of herself naked made in Europe of course and not secured on her mobile. But I like that they make him root for Charlotte because she is Emily's sister. I think this was the first time that Aiden mentioned it. And I like that his protective instincts go beyond just Emily. He is willing to protect all of the people she cares about, and that not only includes Nolan but it seems Jack and Charlotte too. About Emily's bridal shower. First, about the fashion again. Charlotte's dress is an interesting choice. The serpent pattern gives us a hint at her duplicity regarding Emily's and Daniel's relationship. Emily's dress was an obvious yet still very elegant choice. After silver for their engagement party, she is wearing white and gold. Her extravagant golden shoes were just the crown on this outfit. The only thing I dislike is her hair. It looks a little bit like a bird nest. But I like that she is wearing not that much accessoires like a big necklace or something. She looks real classic with those long earrings. Victoria's dress is nothing special and something I would have expected since she likes to wear the combination black and white. An obvious color choice for her since she sees herself as innocent, yet she is, besides Conrad, the most wicked of them all. About Victoria introducing Emily's first husband. First of all, I like that they framed this with those very embarrassing bridal party games. It was nice to see that they weaved in some real wedding traditions. And with those wide shots they could at least take full advantage of Emily's maybe most expensive outfit besides her wedding dress. I loved this scene cause Emily and her first husband surely made a special arrangement after or even before Victoria contacted him. So this was surely no surprise for her, and both of their reactions were obviously fake. The one thing I still do not get is why Daniel is suddenly seeing the resemblance between Emily and his mother. Was he really so blind that he did not recognize it earlier? It was his grandfather Edward Grayson who already in season 1 pointed out how similar Emily and Victoria are in character. And by the way, I love this kind of theme for this episode, that Emily is sneaking around. I bet this is a skill she developed in Takeda's revenge school. Another thing, I love her idea with the ruby. I know it is very much impractical and just a plaything, but I love that it gives Nolan the opportunity for this punchline.
A ruby, perhaps?
Red is her favorite color.
The way they act here, you can really feel how strong they have grown together. It feels like they would be siblings who have grown up together. About Daniel meeting with Sara. Interesting that Emily thought he bought a gift for her earlier, and therefore was shopping with Nolan to find an equivalent gift for him. But in fact it is a necklace he gave Sara years ago. Seems as if he is really driving down memory lane. I hate this scene not only because they trying so desperate to make it right. In reality they would have slept together, I am sure, and he would have felt guilty about it. But probably never told Emily about it. Maybe he would have started an affair with Sara like Conrad told him to do, and so he would have made the same mistakes as his parents. Anyway, when he is trying to talk with Emily, I felt sorry for him. Because Emily is doing all this not because she is fighting for him. She just does not want that someone as unimportant as Sara undermines her mission. Not when what she surely thinks she has the finish line in her view. But Emily is lucky that Victoria could not resist to inform her about Daniel's infidelity. If she did not have this head start, she would not have been prepared for that kind of conversation. So Daniel did not stand a chance. To be fair, I think this is one of Victoria's first tests for Emily. For now she is just doubting that Emily is loving Daniel and wants to marry him to become part of the Grayson family in order to obtain their luxurious lifestyle. Which is pretty funny since they run out of money by the end of season 2. You would assume that if Emily was a real con artist would have packed her packs to find a new rich heir to marry. About Emily and Jack again. And here they are fighting again. But since they have a new level of honesty here, I enjoyed this scene very much. In fact, it is one of my favorite scenes of the two. 'Cause for once they are talking about the past. Something they both seem to avoid since it opens old wounds. But this scene has the most significant and important quotes in it. First, how Emily is defending Aiden by telling Jack he does not know either both of them. Which is totally true since he only has that idolized image of Amanda and Emily in his mind. The childhood memory of this innocent little girl. And the beautiful young socialite that was kind enough to become his friend even though they not frequent the same circles. About his warning on Aiden, I think he oversteps his position here. He has no right to meddle in this since at the moment they are neither friends nor lovers. But I like his analysis of her cause. It is true. She said it herself when she was open up to Daniel and when she apologized to Nolan for the first time in season 1. Emily has a hard time trusting people. Always assuming the worst of people till she is persuaded otherwise. And I like his quote that he can never hate her with the funny addition that he tried enough. Really sad was her last reply that she wished nothing to change when they were kids. You can really see and feel how both are recognizing each other's pain over their lost opportunities. 'Cause if they were not separated in this abrupt and very cruel way they could have had a happy childhood together. Maybe even would have become a pair as teenager and even go married when they were older. Oh, and I love her cable knit sweater she is wearing. I think this one is her favorite, too. 'Cause I have seen it multiple times on her in this and the next season. About Emily telling Daniel she is pregnant. I knew right away this was a lie because she took that photo of Formander's family and could have easily find an ultrasound photo of her in that same bag. Maybe she even took it on the same day in case she needed it. For me this was the most unforgivable lie she told Daniel. 'Cause she knew this was the one thing that would make Daniel stay no matter what. He would have never abandoned a pregnant woman. Like Victoria points out later, it would have been at least understandable if she tried to fight for Daniel out of love. But it is just a last desperate attempt to see her doomed plan through. So it is the more tragic since she put Daniel through this without even succeeding with her plan. What I still love is the atmosphere of this scene and showing us the beautiful feminine and maritime interior of the beach house. I would have shopped her coral lamp if I could afford it. And I am still in love with this tea light holder made out of silver-painted coral. This scene really shows off her manipulation skills. The way she is telling him this story and trying to fake her surprise and lucky feeling as if this was not a catastrophe for him. Just hilarious. But the most important cliffhanger was Lydia's return.
And believe me, the pleasure is all mine.